Welcome to the Emily Kate Made This podcast. I am Emily Kate and I'm coming to you from Berlin in Germany. So this is primarily a knitting podcast, but I do also talk about sewing and other crafty things here and there. So welcome back to my regular viewers and hello to anybody new. And this is episode 9, I think. So very good. I'm really happy that you're taking time out of your day to be with me and to see what I've been making. So today is a very out of season, possibly, episode, as you may have gathered from the title. But it's Christmas themed. I know, it's only November, but I made a Christmas jumper, as you may have gathered from the title. The most epic Christmas jumper you will ever see. And I finished it a lot earlier than I expected, so that's why it's coming up in this episode. So first a sip of tea and then we'll get into the episode. So what I'm wearing, this is, let's see if I can sit up a bit, whoop, or fall over. This is the Leaf Sweater Winter Edition by Melanie from the Knit Stitch. It is knit in bulky yarn or chunky yarn. It's the Petite wool by We Are Knitters. I can't remember the exact colour, but I will pop it down in the description below. Anything I talk about will be down there. It's size extra small and I knit it on 6mm needles for this part and then the rest was on 10. Technically it was probably a fast knit, but it was my second jumper or third, and the first one I ever did was basically the same but in cotton, but I'll show you that another time. So I really love this sweater, but it is really warm, which seems to be the theme, that every time I want to do a podcast and share with you my knitwear, it's too hot to wear knitwear. It's really cold outside, but in my apartment it's like 25 degrees and we don't have heating on. I think it's just the sun. It's a southern facing window and it just heats up the room. So I sit here, but I will try and keep it on just for you guys. So that is what I'm wearing. It took 4 balls of this. I've never washed it. I never blocked it. I only started blocking when I started using Let Lopi. So I have no idea if this is going to grow or pill. So far, it's beautiful. It doesn't smell. It's really soft. It's really warm. So I'm very happy. At some point I will wash it or block it. I mean, I don't see that there's a problem with the leaf pattern not standing out, and that's usually why people block, but one of the reasons. So I'm happy. You will see this leaf pattern come out constantly in my what I'm wearing and what I made, because it's one of my absolute favorites. So thank you, Melanie from the Knit Stitch. The construction was a raglan. I think this was my first raglan. I got very, very confused. I remember that, and not knowing how to do the leaning increases at the time. And I also was doing magic loop, and I'd only just learned how to use magic loop. And when I got to the very end, I was pulling the stitch really tightly, and then going to move the stitches, and it was so tight it was stuck on the, I don't have any needles with me. It was basically stuck on the wire, and then it wouldn't go over the needle because I pulled it so tightly. So that was a lesson learned, and I have not done that again, because this was so hard and I didn't understand how anybody used magic loop until then, when I realized what I was doing wrong. So, whoops. And I also bound off on the bottom in just the normal, like, knit one, pull it over, knit one, pull it over. I'm sure there's better terminology for that. But you should really have done it in the rib. So knit one, purl one, and then it would be a stretchy bind off. But this is like, yep, that's not going anywhere. But it's fine. It's fine. So what next? The piece de resistance. Excuse my French. The Christmas jumper. I am in love with my jumper. I did a little mixy matchy of some of my favorite patterns. So it is not my pattern, but it's a combination of 3. So it's based on the Felix pullover by Savory Knitting. So the stitch count and everything, and the raglan increases with the holes, lace. Then I used the Christmas pudding. I'm giving it away now. I'll show you and then I'll keep talking. Are you ready? Oh, is this not the best thing you've ever seen? In fact, I'm gonna put it on for you. Ta-da! Okay, it does not go with my trousers, but ignore those. This is my epic Christmas jumper that I am in love with. This is from the Stone Knits Christmas Pudding sock pattern. So obviously this is not a pair of socks. I just took the pattern from it and inserted it into my stitch count that I just slightly adjusted from the Felix. So here's the Felix, and it does not go with this t-shirt. And then the bottom part was, it's not exactly a copy from the pattern, but to get the idea of how to do this was from the Melody Hoffman tulip pullover or tulip sweater. So on hers, the stitch count is different and it goes on for a lot longer. And I'm not 100% sure that I did it right because it looks a little bit strange, but I don't care. I ran out of this coloured yarn, so the bottom was supposed to be this colour, but I kind of like it in the white because it looks a little bit like when you have a Christmas pudding and the cream gets poured all over it. So it's very fitting. In fact, this is a perfect example of what I mean. So I'm absolutely delighted with my jumper. I didn't knit it in fantastically beautiful rustic yarn like I would have loved to, but it is still a nice yarn. It feels nice, it's warm, it is 100% wool. It's the Drops Alaska. So it is, what is it? Is it bulky? No. It recommends 5mm needles. And it is 50 grams, 70 meters. I can't remember what it is. It's like worsted or Aran, I think. And I completely miscalculated how much I would need. So I have a bag full of like random skeins left over, and yeah, I didn't have enough for this. Completely miscalculated. So oh no, I just dropped my work in progress. So I will use them probably for another Christmas jumper at some point, but yeah, little miscalculation there. I had no idea how much to calculate for what I would need, so I just went, it's probably like a ball of that, or 3 balls of that, or 5 of that. Bad calculating. But I made it. I still made it. I did the extra small size of the Felix, but the gauge is a bit off because I have made it before. If you've seen my other podcast, I've made it in La Loopy, and I wear that all day, every day. I love that sweater. So this one is a different gauge slightly, so it's actually a bit bigger, but I don't mind. And I thought because it's not Lelopi or rustic yarns, then it wouldn't be so warm, but I'm really, really hot, so I'm going to take it off. And we're back without any knitwear because I'm really hot. So the needles that I used 5mm for the neck band, then 6mm for here and for the body, and I actually didn't change my needle size. I stayed at 6mm on here because I was doing the colour work holding both yarns in my left hand, so I was hoping the gauge wouldn't change. Actually haven't measured it, checked the stitch count, but it doesn't seem like it's puckering or tight or anything, so I'm happy with that. And then this also stayed, I think, on the 6. And the only thing I changed was I made the sleeves slightly shorter for 2 reasons. One, that I ran out of yarn, but also I prefer when my sleeves hit around here or slightly higher, so I can do things in my life like knitting and washing up and not have thick sleeves. And I made them a bit tighter. I did 3.75 needles, and I decreased more so here rather than slowly like the pattern said. And this one, I can't remember exactly. I think I had about 12, I don't know, 12 of these or something, I can't remember. But anyway, I just used the Melody Hoffman YouTube video that she had with the tulip pattern to figure out how to do them. It took me a while to get the hang of it, and as I said, I'm not sure if I did it right, but it looks fine, so I'm happy with it. So yes, my lovely amazing Christmas jumper is completed. So I will be wearing this in, what is it, November 3rd, in a couple of weeks to get my wear out of it. That's also one of the reasons that I didn't buy the yarn. Like, I wanted to buy Tinder from the company that I can't pronounce. It's Norwegian. I wanted to buy that yarn, but it was going to cost over €100, and it's really unnecessary for a Christmas jumper. Also, I had no idea how much yarn I needed, and as it appears, I would have completely misjudged and had not enough and too many. So it worked out fine the way I did it. Okay, if it looks a little different, I just realised that my settings were set for centre and not wide, so I really hope that everything was in focus for you, because otherwise I just showed you the best jumper and you didn't see it. So my next finished objects are also in bulky yarn. I had a look at my yarn stash and I just wanted to get rid of some of the like acrylic-y wool yarns that I bought when I first started to knit. And my second jumper that I made was by... didn't write it down, but the yarn is Rico Design Essentials Mega Wool Tweed, and it's chunky, and it's about 55% wool and 45% acrylic. And I made a jumper and it's really nice. I will show that to you in a couple of weeks, I guess. But then I also miscalculated and bought too many balls, and they've just been sitting there for the last year because I don't use acrylic anymore, but I didn't want to waste it. So I made myself some cabled mittens and cabled hat. So I will sport them for you. Where's the end? There. So this one is, I don't know if you can see it, I'll add some pictures if it doesn't come out. And the mittens should go with it. So as I said, that was the yarn, and the pattern is a classic cabled hat and mittens. It's a free pattern on Ravelry by Destiny Maja. The pattern does have a gauge, obviously, but I didn't check it. I just used 6.5 needles like it says and made it. And if you recall, I think it was either last time or the time before episode, I talked to you about hats and how I made a hat, but it was enormous. And that's this hat, but in the Petite wool. I can actually see it over there, but I don't know if I'll get up. I've already got up and down, turning on and off my camera, so maybe I'll just insert a picture. But I made that one last year and it just grew and grew, and you can pull it out here, it's ridiculous. And so now, then I didn't have a hat because I couldn't wear it. Every time I'd go out, it would either like go up and fall off, or it would just sink. And if I didn't have glasses on, it would just go over my whole face. So it was stupid. So I did the same pattern because I enjoyed the pattern. It's my first and only cabling that I've done. I did do a honeycomb cabled dishcloth once, but as a garment or accessory even, I haven't done any other than this one. And I really enjoyed it. So the pattern is free, the yarn is leftovers, and it goes with absolutely nothing. I have my rust coloured Humblebee shawl, then I have pink hat and gloves, I also have blue gloves, like nothing matches whatsoever. So naturally, I'll just have to knit more. So that's those two, my finished objects. I really like them. They're hopefully not going to stretch. I have washed them, so they didn't get any bigger to my knowledge. I still haven't checked the gauge. I'm very bad with gauge swatching and checking. I think the problem is that if I do a gauge swatch, it never comes out the same as the garment because my tension changes, even if I'm swatching in the right way, like in the round or flat. And I don't know what happens, it just completely changes. And I just kind of feel like, oh, they're lying to me, what's the point? And so I just don't do it. My next work in progress is a pair of socks. I haven't got too far, but you should be able to see the pattern. I mean, I've passed the heel now. These are 6-ply. They are the Regia, Arnie and Carlos. And I cannot remember if they were summer nights or autumn nights or winter nights, but they came under Christmas socks. So they are a 6-ply, which means they knit up a lot faster, which I very much appreciate. I was using the biscuit sock pattern that I did before in previous episodes just to get the numbers. I originally cast on with the 56 stitches, but they were so big and they wouldn't fit. They're for my husband, and I thought he would need larger, but they were enormous. So I went back down to the 48 maybe. And when I got down to the heel, this is an Eye of Partridge heel, you could just see holes. Obviously my gauge completely changes when I do purling flat than when I do it in the round, because when I do it in the round I don't notice a huge difference, but this one was massively different. So I changed down to 2.75 needles for this to try and tighten it up a bit. And I forgot to change back to the 3s until about here. So hopefully that won't change the gauge of the whole thing too much. You can see a little bit that it's gone in a little bit here, but it's worth it to not have huge holes at the back. So now I have to guesstimate how long his foot is and keep on going. I do have a free pattern for a 6-ply or DK weight sock to get the toe, because he didn't like the toe, which I don't know what it's called, but you basically knit it the same way as you do for the hat, and then at the very end you like pull it and it draws it in. He didn't like that on the biscuit socks pattern, so I have to do my good old fashioned Kitchener stitch, but I've never done it with a DK weight to get the numbers right, so I just want to double check. And then they shall be his Christmas present. It's like this big fat ball of yarn. It's beautiful. So that is my first work in progress. I feel like I said my second, but that is my first. My second looks ridiculous. Let me explain it before I pick it up. I have cast on the Jennifer Steingass Vintersol pullover, and it has a hybrid construction, she calls it. So you do a provisional cast on with scrap yarn, and then you knit from the bottom up the yoke, and then I think you do the neckband, and then you undo your provisional, and then you do your sweater as normal, from top down. And I have never done that before, and I just used some of my the cotton by We Are Knitters because it's the thickest cotton that I have, and it says on the pattern not to use something like Let Lopi, which is what the yarn is for the pattern, because the rustic yarns would stick together too much. So I used that, but I didn't know exactly how much I would need, so I cast on, and you have to cast on all the stitches for the biggest part of the yoke, so it's about, what was it, like 200 and something, 280 or something stitches, and I basically had a lot left over from my cast on, and then I had the ball that it came from, and I don't want to cut it because I don't want to waste the yarn, because at the end I'll just be undoing it and it'll just be a waste. So I have these two balls like everywhere, and the colour work has 4 colours, so there's a lot of balls. Well, there will be, I haven't got that far yet. So basically, in order to stop them from tangling up, I've put them into some socks, and they're now hanging out, having a whale of a time. So if you can see, I'm not sure, this purple is the provisional. So you basically cast on, and then you do 2 or 3 or however many rounds in just knitting, and I believe the idea is that it helps support the yarn so that you're not putting too much tension on the row. I don't know, I'm not explaining that well, but it's called the cow yak cast on, provisional cast on, so Google it. And then when you've done that, you then start knitting your yoke from the bottom. I actually inserted a lifeline because at some point I'm going to have to undo this and then collect my stitches, and I do not want to collect like 300 stitches and miss one and it starts running down my colour work. That would be horrible. So I've inserted a lifeline, which means I have another strand hanging out. And I also don't have a big enough, I wanted to call it a wand. It is not a wand. Cable. I don't have a big enough cable, and I'm slightly worried that although when I'm knitting I'm pulling to pull out my floats, when obviously it gets down here they all just get scrunched up, and I'm slightly concerned that's not going to be very good for colour work. So I'm thinking I might have to put this on pause and order a bigger cable so that doesn't happen. The thing is, after a little while the yoke is going to get smaller, and then I'll put them back on here, so I only need the cable for a small period of time, but I might have to do it anyway because I'm really nervous that this is going to ruin the colour work. If you have an opinion, please let me know down below. Will it being scrunched up affect the colour work tension? Like, not really tension, but like I am actively pulling these regularly, but as you can see they all get squished up. So this will eventually be a masterpiece of a jumper. It's actually the smallest my words today. My words every time actually, now I think about it. Anyway, I'm using a 4mm needle, and that's the smallest I've ever done a jumper on, I think. I have one pattern that's for 3.75, but I haven't made it yet. I think every other jumper has been 4.5 and up. So this one could take me a little longer. But even longer if I don't get the cable. So I must make a note and order a cable. And do I have anything else in progress? That one, that one, that one, that one, that one. No. That is everything I'm actively knitting on. I have still got a couple of projects that are just sitting there. I'm looking at it feeling guilty. I have a shawl, and for some reason it's really hurting my hands to knit English style, and I cannot for the life of me figure out how to do lacework Norwegian style. I just don't understand. I get completely confused because when you purl in Norwegian style, the yarn is always at the back, whereas usually you put your yarn at the front, and I just don't get it when you have to yarn over. And the same thing goes for colour work. I have a pattern that's flat, and I thought, yeah, I could give it a go doing colour work flat, why not? But then I'd have no idea how to catch the floats when you hold your yarn at the back, because every tutorial tells you how to do it English style or continental style. And from what I gather from Arnie and Carlos, they seem to knit in the round all the time and steek, so there's never really a moment that you would purl flat, because they always knit in the round. So because I'd really like to try out some of these Marie Wallen patterns that I keep seeing people making. These jumpers are stunning, but most of them are knitted flat, and I am not proficient enough in knitting or mathematics to figure out how to do them, convert them into the round. So I'm going to hold off on that and just keep going with my colour work in the round, because I feel like I have favorited so many in the round. I have favorited so many colour work projects that I feel like I've knitted quite a few by now, when realistically I've only completed one colour work cardigan. So I think I can give myself a break when it comes to not learning all the techniques all now, and just continue doing some colour work in the round without purling and I need tea and words. So what else? Speaking of my colour work cardigan, I did manage to get myself some buttons. I have no idea if it will focus. They're silver. The problem is that they're a little bit too small, and as a wonderful follower on Instagram told me, why don't you just make your holes, the button holes, smaller? So that's what I'm going to do. So thank you. I'm going to try and do that today because it's got a lot colder and I really enjoy wearing this outside, but the buttons just randomly just go pop, pop, and then I have to do them up, and then I walk and then pop. So that needs fixing. So that is what I will do later, is to make these buttonholes a little bit smaller, and then it will be marvellous. I am slightly at a, I wanted to say at a loss. Basically, people always talk about how Let Lopi is so fantastically marvellous at keeping you warm, especially outside, and that most people make it as a garment piece for the outerwear instead of a coat. And I am confused by this because I wear my Let Lopi jumper, and then I wear my Let Lopi Maja cardigan, and I have a wool, 100% wool shawl. And the wind, I can still feel the wind come through. And they've been blocked, so they've all puffed up. So, I don't know. When I sit here and talk to you, I'm always saying, oh my gosh, I'm too hot. But generally, I'm very cold, and especially outside. So I'm a bit confused as to how I can still be cold when I'm wearing all of this wool outside. That's a random blab. Okay, my pile is growing here. I'm surrounded by yarn. What else? A little acquisition, like those buttons were an acquisition type of thing. When I bought my sock yarn for my husband, I bought some more. So this one is the Grundel hot socks. These are going to be beautiful according to the picture on the website. I have, despite the fact that I love knitting socks, I also have very little patience. And I really get quite bored. Once I get through the ribbing, I think, oh, I need a break. Let me do something else. And then it takes so long for me to actually finish the sock. And then I do, and then I have second sock syndrome. So I decided, after the fun that I had with my biscuit socks, and I really enjoyed them because they're basically the same, but they go just that little bit faster. That gives me the motivation to keep going. And then I make the second one, and then they're finished, and it's amazing. So I not only got this one and his one, but I got another one and another one. So this one is going to be for me, and although I think I can probably get a couple of pairs out of this, maybe one medium and then some shorties, we shall see. And I can always just mix and match the colours. I don't care if a sock looks higgledy-piggledy. And then I got this one for my mum, and I actually bought it because it says Moomin on it, and I got so excited because it had Moomins. And then I said to my husband, look, Moomins! He didn't know what they were, and I went, how can you not know? Do you know, I don't have a clue. I know they're from Finland, but I've actually never watched them. I have no idea what they are. I just know the word and associate it with the fact that I know what the word is. I don't know actually what they are, so I felt a bit stupid. I feel more stupid now telling you. So I think I'm going to have to Google, have a little YouTube session on the Moomins. But it looked so cute and I got very excited. So these will be probably birthday. Gosh, my fringe is doing all kinds of things today. These will probably be birthday socks. So they are my little acquisitions. I don't think I bought anything else particularly. I bought the new Melody Hoffman pattern for her Luna and Flora, I think, sweater, which is beautiful. And I think it's called the Wild Posy, but she's got two versions. And I have been like stalking Melody on her Instagram and constantly going through pictures to check when it's going to be released. And I just sat there and waited and waited, and then it was released on Friday the 29th of October, and I woke up at 9 and I checked Ravelry and it wasn't there. I was like, oh gosh. So I can't, actually that is exactly when I cast on this hat, because I thought, no, I need to cast on the other one and it's not available. So I cast that on, and then I ordered some yarn for it. So that's gonna happen. But it will happen later when I have done some more of my whips. But I'm not doing too badly with them, so I'm happy. So that's all for the knitting content. If you want to stick around for some random chats, then please do. And if that's all you're here for, then thank you very much for watching. And I hope you enjoyed the content and my amazing Christmas jumper. And I'll see you next time. And for those of you sticking around, I don't have a lot of chit chat to say, but it did come to my attention there is a distinct lack of worm updates and worm content for you. I think it was episode 2 or 3 I told you I had compost worms and they escaped. And a few people have messaged to be like, excuse me, where is my updates? I need my worm updates. So they have been looked after. I have purchased some bedding for them. It's like a hemp mat that you stick on top. They originally ate the one that they came with and I just didn't replace it, and then they really started to curious and climb out because there's nothing to keep them in. There is a lid but there's a hole because they need air, and yeah, they're happy now. They have their little nest. I'm not doing a fantastic job at understanding how to care for my worms. You basically have to make sure that it's not too wet and not too dry and not too hot and not too cold, but they have enough food but not too much, but also not like too less. It's really hard to know. I have European night crawlers, so they tend to go below the surface, whereas red wigglers tend to stay on the top. And in America, I know a lot of you are from America, so if you are into worms and worm composting, you'll probably know more about the red wigglers because they are the most common. And they tend to be on the surface. And then you can see like how many they are, what they're enjoying to eat. But yeah, the night crawlers just hide. And so I don't know where they are until I find them out in the world, in my sofa, or on the floor, and under the rugs. Anyway, I love my worms. And I think for Christmas, my brother might be buying me some red wigglers. Yeah, I'm cool. For Christmas, I get worms. And so that's kind of my update on my worms. If any of you are worm composters, let me know in comments or talk to me on Instagram. I have really enjoyed so many of you reaching out to me on Instagram and having a chat. I really enjoy it. So please keep doing it. And speaking of people reaching out, I wanted to say hello to Nina. Hello. I will link her podcast below. She's been so wonderful at messaging me on Instagram and answering any of my questions that I've posted into the wide world of knitting and not understanding things. And she is such an amazing knitter and incredibly fast. And she has a podcast on YouTube, and she has it in English and in German. And I've been watching her German episodes to try and attune my ears to German and German language and German knitting terms, which is kind of funny because she speaks mostly in English most of the time and didn't learn to knit, but she also struggled at the very beginning to remember the words for what she wanted. So it was actually really comforting because it felt, I don't know, very familiar, and I really appreciated it. This is very random spiel appreciation, but thank you, Nina. Thank you for being you and posting your YouTubes. I very much enjoy your content. So anyone watching, please do check her out. She has lovely projects and you should see them. What else? This is super random, but I don't know. God, I'm so distracted by my fringe activity. The lighting situation, if any of you have been in Berlin during the winter, you will know that it gets very dark. And I don't have a lamp above my head. I'll show you the situation. There are just empty wires. In Germany, if you rent or buy a house, you generally don't get anything. Like, it depends where you are in the country, but if you rent or move in, they don't always have electricity. That's a lie. They have electricity. They don't have light bulbs in there or any connections. You just have wires hanging out. And sometimes you don't have kitchens installed or doors or door handles. It's so bizarre. It was such a crazy concept to me when we moved here 5 years ago that you would move in somewhere and it wouldn't have doors or kitchens, sometimes even bathrooms. Like, people move house with their kitchens. It's bizarre. But when we moved here, we rented, and we made sure we rented somewhere with a kitchen and a bathroom, but we didn't have light bulbs or anything. And then we bought this place, and we cannot figure out how to insert the light bulbs into some of them. They just, live wires hang out, and some of them we have, but they're hanging very precariously. It's pretty dodgy workmanship. So the lighting situation might get a bit weird, and the windows over there, if you may have noticed, I tried to change my setup so that I faced the, oh gosh, I faced the window, but yeah, I'm still really far away from it. And I did buy a little, I don't know what it's called, like a ring light, because they're supposed to be marvellous for YouTubes and FaceTime and things. But it reflects in my glasses these perfect glowing halos in my eyes. So we will play around with that and see what happens and if it works. But otherwise, I've just noticed that my battery is about to die. So let us round this up and say thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my content. I hope you enjoyed my Christmas jumper. And hopefully I will see you next time. So thank you for watching. Bye.